Hi guys, welcome back to the usual place. Now imagine paying close to $1 million for a 3-room resale housing board flat. Now between January and November this year, 4 buyers paid between $900,000 and $935,000 for such units. But let me make one big caveat here. These prices are not the norm. In that same period, the majority of 3-room resale flats were sold for an average of $470,000. But what's curious is the increase in the number of pricier 3-room resale flats. Now, last year, there was just one such flat that sold for $900,000. Also, the number of 3-room resale flats resold for between $800,000 and $900,000 has also more than doubled from 41 units in 2024 to 95 units so far in 2025. What's driving these eye-watering prices for these smaller units? And how does this affect buyers who see 3-room resale units as an accessible way to own a first home? Now, to help me dissect what this means for housing affordability, I have Patrick Chee, the founder of Homeseller, an online real estate portal. And Patrick, you're also a property agent, and this year alone, you have sold about 200 HDB flats.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for being here. Just hang on there. And I also have Mr Nicholas Mak, the Chief Research Officer at property portal Mogul.sg. And you're a veteran analyst of Singapore's property markets. We talk to you all the time at the Straits about property. Yes.
Okay.
So you're here at the usual place for the first time. And I want to start by asking both of you, what's driving the trend of 3-room flats going for $900,000 or even $800,000? Like Patrick, looking at the market.
It is not what is driving the trend. It's actually the market, the unit that's been transacted, the valuation is there. That means buyers are actually buying at fair market value. So recently, we also sold quite a few of all these units, not the 900K plus one, but 800K plus range. This year, we have transacted in like Henderson, Pandemia, even Bedok Reservoir, right? 747A, those DBSS. So the highest transacted is 848K, no COV. So this
is cash over valuation, COV, right? Yes.
Yeah, so there's no COV. That means the valuation matches the selling price. So what does that tell us? Is buyers are buying at the fair market price. So you say moving forward, if the economy is going to do equally well, okay, there's market cycle. In the next bull run, you might even see $1 million HDB. So I anticipated
$1 million 3-room resale HDB.
So guess where it will be? My guess it will be the BTO at this roadshow.
Because Central?
Because they are above 40 story, so possibly. But even it happened, please understand, they are most likely the price that they transacted, there's no cash over valuation. That means it's a fair market valuation.
Okay, hang on to that thought. I want to get Nicholas's take on this. Like, what is driving these prices? And you agree, Patrick?
Well, I think overall it's property price inflation. The prices of not just HDB flats, but condominiums, private housing is also going up. We must think of the whole housing market, they're all interlinked, all the way from your condominiums near Orchard Road, all down to your HDB flats at Woodlands. And also think of it like as if it's an elastic cord, like they are linked by this long elastic rope. So when the prices of the high end or even just mass market condominium goes out, they are stretching the rope, but eventually the prices of your cheaper or more remotely located HDB flat, the prices will start going up again. So they just this whole spectrum of property types and prices will move upwards. And one of the there's a few drivers to this. Of course, the economic growth in household income. That's a very important thing. If people's income don't grow, they won't be able to afford that. But I also like to pick up one point from what Patrick said, which is about valuation, the property valuation. Whether or not the valuation of these flats were done before or after the buyer make the offer. Because I also work in, I started my career in the property consultancies, working with property valuers. And one common method of valuation of HDB flats is comparable valuation. And sometimes what the valuers will do is they want to find out how much did the buyer is willing to offer. They may ask, and then they see whether, if they are willing to pay this price, perhaps we should match the valuation. So the important thing was that valuation done before or after the offer was made?
HDB rules is both buyer and seller will base on the last few transacted and go and decide a price. Then buyer will go and do a valuation after we issue OTP. That means it will be after. It's not before. Yeah, but the last few transactions is always a very good guide. So for us at Homeseller, we have done so many transactions whereby we actually, because those that you see on the resale flat prices, right, it encompasses COV. But buyers always don't know. So I believe there's a misconception that, all this high price property, it is being bought by rich buyer or cash rich buyer. Actually, that's not the truth. Yeah. So market valuation at this area command this kind of price.
Okay. So I want to know who are the people who are buying 3-room flats? Like on average, prices aside, who are the type of people who will pick 3-room HDB resale flats? Like, Patrick, when people come to you, they say, who are they like? Are they like single, couples?
I have seen single and retiree.
Okay.
Yeah, so the single, I would say that those that I've spoken to they are very savvy. They know what they want. So being single, they actually got boyfriend and girlfriend. All right. So one of the cases, the girlfriend wanted to buy, very clear direction that the boyfriend, they are going to get married in the near future. So boyfriend have a condo. So they wanted a prime area right now to suit their lifestyle. But in 5 years' time, they want to have the option to rent out, to have a positive rental yield. As we all know, now condo prices are all on the rise. So to get 4% rental yield in the private property market is almost like very rare, unless you do some creative rental like co-living. All right. But for HDB, no matter how you see the price, like you can buy a Dawson unit for 900K. It looks expensive. But the rental over there can be easily 4,000 to 5,000 range. Depend how you renovate the house. So we are talking about easily 5% to 6% rental yield. So when they want to shift to this condo segment, the rental yield will help them to offset a bit of their mortgage to the condo. So they're actually quite savvy. Then for the retiree one is, they downgraded, they are flush with money, they want to stay near with their parent, and they still want the lifestyle around there. Convenient.
As in they want to stay near their children. As in they're in a previous like bigger house and then they
So
downgrade.
what I saw is the single retiree, widowed retiree, shifted from West Coast to go to this Dawson. So he just tell me plainly, so much money no use ma. So he can fully paid, stay near the parent, he still can go for his exercise around the Dawson area. Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is either single people or retirees who are on the downgrade.
The 4 that I mentioned earlier, right? One of them is also small family. Yeah,
Okay.
one. But actually, I see majority is like retiree single.
Okay.
Those that savvy one, they want to fit their lifestyle. They want to be near town. But near town condo is very expensive. But you ask me, they have a forward planning whereby they intend to rent out in the future. But this is just an interim whereby they can still enjoy the convenience and then don't pay a sky high price. So in a way, they are actually quite prudent.
Nick?
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're referring to those who bought the pricier 3-room flats, right? The 800,000.
Yeah.
But I think majority of those, the 3-room flat, the median price is still in the sub $500,000. So the buyers, as I believe, is the whole spectrum of different types of Singaporeans. Anything from low-income families with children, sometimes even I've seen 3 generations living in a 3-room flat because that's what they can afford, and sometimes the children might even have to sleep in the living room. To all the way to just couples without children, and pets, and of course singles. Because if they were to buy directly from the government, they can only buy 2-room flexi flats, which is small. Yes, 45 square meters or even smaller.
And a 3-room flat is between about 60 to 65 square meters, if I'm not wrong.
Depending on the age, the older ones is a bit bigger, and you get 2 bedrooms. And it's quite comfortable because you can use one for sleeping and the other one as a workspace or as a guest room. And that might be a favorite among singles, especially when you can find 3-room HDB flats all over Singapore.
So I'm looking at so 2 different prices. Now one is like, as you said, like the majority are about 470K on average, right? Versus like these handful of like 800K, 900K type 3-room flats, right? How will this affect like people who can't afford those prices? Like, should they be worried that it's hitting that? these?
No, there's still. I'm talking. I think more than 95% of the 3-room flats are still priced below $800,000. So they are still within a very affordable range. So okay, I give you an example. If let's say a house, the typical household income in Singapore is per annum is about $135,000. So if they were, so a typical household were to buy a 3-room HDB flat, and even if the 3-room HDB flat were to price, let's say, at the high range of $900,000, and we will be looking at a price to income ratio of about 5.9 times. 5.9 times, that means within 6 years, okay, well, it's not realistic they can pay off everything in 6 years because their income will need to be paid for other things. But 5.9 times is actually not very high, because in some countries, the ratio can go into double digit, 12 times, 13 times. Or more. So it is still within a fairly affordable range. But the good news is majority of the 3-room flats are really within that $400,000, and with government subsidies and so for those who are eligible, it is actually one of the more affordable type of HDB flats out there that is not too small.
Actually, I always talk to my viewer in my life that, I make this
Live
statement.
on your TikTok, right? Yes.
I make this statement that, HDB, even in today's market, is dirt cheap. Yeah, you'll create a lot of comment why I make this statement, because
You have to qualify with Patrick.
yeah, definitely. Our HDB, our government, they are very good in helping us Singaporean in all age group, in all income tier. Even the lowest income tier at 1,500, let's say you really can't find a job and you are only earning 1,500 and below. Small family just get married. Do you know that you are entitled as a first-time family, you can entitled to this enhanced housing grant of 120K. And back in February, the Yishun launch of the 2-room flexi is only 104K. Government is giving you a property for free. And you guess what? Yeah. So when I use the word cheap, it's actually, I already bring up the value already, but it's actually free. So after 5 years when you sell this property, do you know how much owner are earning? Maybe now on average 350K to 450K range. And all these are your money in CPF and cash. And government still give you a second chance to upgrade to a 3-room or 4-room, BTO or resale with that kind of money. Even though you can still be earning 1,500. Because a 3-room HDB in a suburban BTO, I don't see it crossing 300K. So even you need to pay a resale levy, you still can fully pay a 3-room. And then the 3-room on average right now is selling how much? We are talking about 470K to 600K range. We don't talk about the higher tier one.
Right. So it's about where you're looking. So what you're saying is about, okay, there will be options for everybody. It's just about where you're looking and what you're looking at. Because I would assume that in the 900K price range, that I think those were on high floors, right? I think it was not like 2 or 3 lah. But if you're selling your 3-room flat and it's on a 2nd, 3rd, 4th floor, you're not gonna get those prices. Is that what we're saying here?
I always say that, firstly, beggar cannot choose. All right. I myself, when I was in the civil service, I bought my first flat. My starting income is only 1,350. Right. Take home is like 996. So when I buy my first flat, surprisingly, I can afford a 5A mansionette. And back then, I was only looking at 3-room or 4-room because I thought I could only own this type of unit and my wife is not working. So only one income. But
Patrick, which year was this? Let's qualify.
2007. Okay. 2007. All right.
Okay.
End
Yes,
of
almost
2006,
20 years
2007.
later. Okay, yes.
Yeah, but even though it's 20 years ago, right? So what I'm trying to say is back then, I also not earning a lot. But why I can afford such a big unit? There's no COV. So back then, the grant is only 30K for first timer and 10K for stay near parent. But right now, we are talking about a total grant of almost 230K. So although the price has went up, but government is still helping. You see the grant based on last time and now is like 5 times more, 5 or 6 times more. Yeah, so affordability is never an issue, but it's always people choices. Yeah, everybody want to stay in town. But I was always,
it's like convenience, right? Yes.
but then I was always joking with my viewer that from east to west, I stay in Jurong. I send my wife to airport. It's only 30-minute drive if there's no traffic jam. How far can you go? You take MRT also 1 hour only what?
An hour is very important, you know. Yes. But I mean, Nicholas, you were speaking about the elastic band earlier, right? So in terms of like prices, are they all going to come up together?
I'm afraid so. But here's the thing, is that I agree with Patrick. Actually, Singapore home buyers are in a very enviable position compared to our neighboring countries. Is that the government do provide HDB flats, especially BTO flats, as a form of safety net. You know, if you cannot afford resale or private housing, there is always the HDB BTO for eligible citizens. But coming to your questions about the elastic band, yes, I think that property prices actually has been rising for the last. I thought that COVID would be an occasion where we will see a substantial decrease, but it didn't happen. And the decline in prices during the global financial crisis of 2008 was also quite short-lived. And the reason is because in both occasions, governments around the world were pumping in a lot of liquidity into the economy that actually props up asset prices, and as a result, it did lead to inflation subsequently. So what we are seeing is that we have seen almost, you can say, one generation of home buyers, those who are now in their late 20s and early 30s, who have no memories of severe financial crisis that actually caused the property market to crash. So they may come into the market thinking that prices will keep on going up.
Because that's what we're seeing, right? Like
Yes.
It's
Yes,
like every quarter, every headline, every news article is like, prices are going up.
Yes, and it has been going up for the last 8 years or so. So it seems like nothing is almost like a runaway train, and nothing can really stop it. Not even a global pandemic.
Okay, I mean, since it's live, for the benefit of the consumer, I'm doing, because I'm still selling and buying, right? So we have volume, so we understand what's going on in the market. So for all the live viewer here, you want to know what's going on in today's market. HDB has turned into a buy market. I've said in the next 4 to 5 years, we will see 3-room flat, the older one, go below 200K again. Right now, it's like 300K. Okay.
Why so?
Because it has happened before in 2019. It has happened before in 2007. This period of time, the market was downtrend. So market uptrend in 2007, location in Boon Lay, Circuit Road, Taman Jurong, the 3-room flat below 200K. So market uptrend, 2013, 300K plus. Market downtrend again, 2019, it happens. Alright. So in 2017, our government actually did an announcement. I think our current Prime Minister, he was the M&D Minister. They made an announcement about this SERS. Right. Only 5% of Singapore property will go through SERS. The rest, after the balance sheet is up, they will be returned to the government. So this piece of news actually spooked the market, and the market actually dropped. Okay, until COVID happened, and then it prop up the market again. So now we are seeing the same thing happening. So moving forward, what I say, what is going on in the market, HDB has turned into buy market, but take note, 2-room, 3-room, newly MOP, right now, they are still quite resilient. Why? Because government built too little. Not enough in the market. Demand and supply unbalanced. Alright? $1 million HDB, they are also moving. So the in-between one, the majority of the unit that has been built by the government, 4-room, 5-room, plus the older HDB, right? Because government a few months back again announced the SERS. This time around they say totally no SERS. So the older unit now practically not moving. Yeah. Then the 4-room and 5-room, because of the supply too many, so they are the one that is dropping in the prices. Okay. Why the price will drop? Government always want the HDB, be it the BTO or resale, to be affordable. They are ramping up this BTO and sales of balance. If you actually realize, in the year 2000, government actually built unit in advance, and that caused a problem. So you remember in the year 2000 that you can enter HDB, the next day you can get a key in Jurong, ready unit, nobody want to buy, and that actually resulted the resale market to drop.
Wait, hang on, Nick, you want to say something?
I think that was when Mabao Tan was the M&D minister, and yes, they were building, it was a different system. That was before they had the BTO. They were in a way building ahead of demand. They were estimating what is demand, HDB, and then they tried to build in ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. so that people can get their keys earlier.
Yes.
But sometimes the calculation can go wrong.
And now we're in the reverse. Well, a couple of years ago we were in the reverse where there were not enough flats.
Yeah, so you realize now what happened. Now government actually say that they only recently admitted that they start to build unit in advance, but they don't release first. They depend, they see. So they are moderating. So they actually came up with a hybrid model. So they build in advance, but not too many, but still have the BTO system in place. That's why in every year the launches will be BTO or sales of balance, these two, or they will combine. So when government ramp up these two things, it will indirectly impact the resale market.
Because like what Nick said, it's all like connected, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think in terms of like what we're seeing with prices, I again, as a consumer, this is how I would behave. Like I think it's most people would usually do it. Like when you see the headlines or like more $1 million flats. I mean, I just saw like a flash report yesterday from 99 Co. It said in November 2025 there were 120 HDB resale flats transacted for at least 1 million, and in October there were 87 such units. And some of these flats are not in the city centre, like not prime location, and so. I think like as a consumer or as a buyer, looking at the headlines, I don't look at the COV every day. I'm a little bit concerned Like, and also it's not a new issue. So this housing affordability thing has been like talked about for the last couple of years, right? I mean, what does it mean for people's aspirations to own houses? So I'm hearing there might be a turn in the cycle of prices, right? So there might be a downturn in prices. I mean, let me get Nick's thoughts on what's coming up in the next few years.
Okay, I think those downturns that Patrick mentioned was actually caused partly by a property bubble. By basically, firstly, its demand ran up, increased either because of after a financial crisis and so on, and supply couldn't catch up. Then the government started to increase supply, so it's private developers. And then next thing, there's usually a trigger point that will cause the market to peak. And as supplies keep on coming in, because it takes about 3 to 4 years to build a HDB flat or condo, and as demand starts to drop, the supply is still coming in, and therefore the weight of that additional supply cause prices to drop. Will we see such a bubble? Are we in the bubble? Very often you can't tell whether there's a market bubble until it has already passed.
Okay.
That's the thing about bubble. Same thing with AI. Right now, everyone's talking about AI, company investing in AI, building a data center. But is there a bubble? Well, I guess we only know.
Yeah, whether we're in a property bubble right now.
Yeah. So I think that right now there is going to be one possible turning point. Actually, is the introduction of VERS. VERS. I know the government hasn't set in the time period yet. It could be in 10 years' time or so.
Mid 2030. So 2035 lah.
Okay. So just for people listening or watching us, VERS is Voluntary Early Redevelopment Scheme.
Yes.
Okay.
So where the residents of a cluster of flats, if they're offered this first option, they can vote whether or not they want to sell their flats back to the government, where the government will redevelop. Now, there's a few unknown. One is, what is that hurdle point? Is it 70%, 80% of the residents must agree? Another one is compensation. I think the government will, let's say this cluster of flats, majority of the residents, they cross a hurdle, they vote in favor. The government come in and say, oh, your flat is now 50 years old. Okay, based on our valuation, it is X dollar. Then some residents will say that, wow, but the market price might be higher. But the government say, oh no, we take into consideration like your declining lease and so on. This could send ripples, not exactly a tsunami, but ripples throughout the whole market that says that, oh, the government valuation is actually based on declining lease. And then this could actually bring down the prices of older flats, which, coming back to my analogy of the elastic band, if one end starts to drop, it could also start dragging the prices of the other nearby HDB flats. And then that could affect the rest of the market.
So is the other thing I want to ask is, so that's one thing that may cause property prices drop. Will the other thing be the entry of flats that hit MOP period? Because there are more BTO flats now in the market, right?
I think you have to understand that actually the decaying lease is already in effect. So when government is going to start the VERS in 2035, Okay, that is going to be the, I think, first batch of HDB that hit the 30 years. So decaying lease, they will buy back the flat cheaper based on the lease. That's actually correct one, right? Not wrong. So government, I think we are in good place whereby the government is not going to take advantage of us. Okay, the first is they give people an option, right? That means I choose this block, I want to unblock. Okay, but those that want to continue stay can continue to stay. Those that want to unblock, they can arrange. When they want to shift out. So the actual thing, wait for the government to announce. But if you ask me,
verse needs the okay. So just the thing about verse is
so
that
it's not
you
about
need
voting.
like
So it's not
you
about
need
voting.
a certain quorum in the flat to have verse, right?
No, it's not about voting. I think you guys have go and read the government policy. Is the first thing is they give this block already. So we are giving resident an option. Do you
Whether
want to
they want to
continue
verse
staying or you want to verse? Yeah. So there will be maybe half go verse, half continue staying. Because they don't want the same thing happen in this Ang Mo Kio one, whereby a lot of residents they want to continue staying because of affordability range. So they don't want to force you to SIRS.
I think the Ang Mo Kio
So
one
it's
was
like a hybrid model.
SIRS.
SIRS.
Ang Mo Kio one
It
was SIRS.
Yes.
So there's a lot of complaint.
Yeah.
Because they need to, because old folks, they don't have money to go and top up the list if they want to continue staying in Ang Mo Kio. So that's why I think government came out with this hybrid model. Again, hybrid model. That means I am blocked, but you can continue staying. Those that wish to stay, you continue staying. I will not force you out.
Wait, I think that's not the verse. What verse is? It's
That is the lease sale back scheme. That's the
lease.
lease
So
sale.
it's two different things,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So Nicholas, you wanna?
Verse basically the government is going to introduce verse to replace the SERS, SIRS. The reason is because we have over time, in the next 10, 20 years, an increasing proportion of our HDB flats is going to cross that mid-year point. That means more than 50 years old. Their 99-year lease is going to cross that mid-year point. They are going to get older. And there's also a need to rejuvenate certain parts of the older HDB estates, and they are running out of land. So the only way is actually to tear down, for the government to buy over clusters of flats, to demolish it and redevelop newer flats in those locations. So instead of offering the residents SIRS, which is basically compulsory, they're going to let the residents vote whether or not they want to sell back their flats. But as I say, we do not know what is that percentage. Do you need 70% of the residents to agree,
Right,
or 80%,
so
or just 60%? That is one big unknown.
Okay, so unfortunately, we're not talking about we did
verse.
episode of verse. I will link it in the comment section for people to see this. But I want to go back to housing affordability. So we are actually seeing prices moderating actually. So because resale HDB housing board flat prices saw the slowest quarterly increase in nearly 5 years in the third quarter of 2025. Okay, a lot of numbers, but basically property analysts have said that the slower pace of increase could be due to some buyers opting for there are a lot of BTO flats and sale of balance flats. I think there's like about 30,000 of them, and they were launched this year. Now, do you expect this trend to continue in 2026 in terms of like prices moderating?
I think you could still moderate, but it will still be on the upwards trend. That means instead of growing at 3%, which is what HDB resale price index could end by end of this year, a growth of about 3% per annum, we could see something like 2 to 2.5%. It's also in a way tie in with our income growth as well as the rate of inflation, right? So if inflation, very often we have seen more often than not, property prices are actually growing at a faster rate than our CPI, Consumer Price Index. Okay, which is good news for property owners. So in a way, you're not seeing your property price depreciating, but it can be worrisome for people who haven't bought their property yet.
I beg to differ because I'm doing selling and buying. So the property downtrend started in April this year. So whatever you guys see online right now is a backdated information, resale flat prices. So when will these prices will be reflected? I give you an example. I issue OTP in the month of June, right? Buyer and seller, they can request 90-day submission. Buyer have 21 days to exercise. So total around 4 months. After we do the submission, HDB will take another up to 28 working days for approval. So the actual number is around 45 days. So we just factor in one month. So June, you 5 months, July, August, September, October, November. And that is when the price will be reflected, when HDB approve it. So it's actually backdated. So back in April, I already told my viewers that, market has turned to a buy market. So market is definitely coming down because why? We are already seeing unit sold below the last few transactions. So if this keep on going and there's a lot of supply, example right now, Sengkang, 400 plus 4-room selling, the price is very competitive. And that is why we are seeing 4-room, even in Punggol and Sengkang, coming close to below 500K, which is a rarity in the past 2-3 years. And it's happening. So if this trend continue to happen, the valuation of the property, based on the last few transactions, it will drop.
So here I want to ask about feelings lah. I think it's also about supply and demand, which is what I'm hearing from both of you. But also how much about it is about sentiment and psychology. Because let's say, right, if I see my neighbor pricing their flat for 900K, 800K, why price my unit lower? I don't want to lose out, right? So, Nicholas, doesn't it contribute to the cycle of these like $1 million, 800K flats? Because I know as a homeowner, I don't want to lose out.
Precisely.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for me to price it at 500K when my neighbor is at 900K.
If
right?
I can tell you the reality, is all owners want to sell high.
Yes.
My owner second floor also want to sell the top floor for price. Common. But
it's are you giving them a reality check?
But the thing is, you have to understand, a lot of them they sell is because they are either collecting their BTO key or, those that are collecting a BTO key or they need to change a location because of their kids' school, they will be forced to sell if nobody want to buy at the price. You can look at those porters, they want to price high, yes, but nobody want to buy, what happened? But you need to sell because you're collecting a BTO key or you're collecting a condo key. So eventually, you need to come to a price whereby the buyer is willing to buy. So that is the market price.
Nick?
Well, I think that one of the drivers, another driver of this growth in property prices is actually our population growth. Our population is actually growing gradually. And right now we got 6 over million people. I mean, 10 years ago, when we have only about 4 million people and you say that, we're going to have 4 over million people and we say that, we're going to hit 6 over million people, then it's people will actually balk at it. Do you remember there was a government white paper called that we're going to reach a population of 5.9 million people? And when it came out, it's actually was quite controversial, and people were saying that, wow, our MRT trains are really so crowded, our kids, it's so difficult to get them into the popular schools, and you want to import more people? Because our birth rates was falling, so to grow the population, typically it's through immigration. And it has been happening. It has been right now. We've really crossed that 5.9 million people. So that is one driver. And so the new citizens who come in, they with their Rate Singapore IC, they can actually buy HDB flats or they can buy condominiums without paying ABSD. And that is one of the drivers of it. And the other, so the question is whether or not we are going to see this. There's also the other side of the coin, which is that our job market is actually not performing very well, right? Companies are, recently there was a survey that actually shows majority of the companies are going to have headcount freeze.
Next year,
in fact, for those who are job hunting, they already know this from half a year ago. But now it's becoming basically headline news. So we're seeing these two things: population growing, new citizens being minted, and then we are seeing the job market not doing that well. So I think there are counteracting forces that could actually slow down prices, price growth. And that, yes, as what Patrick says, there will always be some groups of more desperate sellers who have to sell. There's another group, it's actually those who are going to get the keys of their condominiums. Because in order for them and they're given a certain amount of time to sell their HDB flats so that they can move into the condominium and get back their ABSD from the government.
Actually, population has been growing since day one. But if you have seen the downtrend of the market, 2000 to 2007 downtrend, population grow, but market still downtrend. 2013 and market downtrend all the way to 2019. This period, population also grow. Yeah. So in Singapore, we have BTO, we have these new launches, whereby people will be in a way forced to sell when the time comes, be it seller or buyer market, although they want to sell high. But because market is not in their favor, they need to sell at a lower price in order for them to have the fund to go to their next house. So they can't
So it's
hold
like
on to the
sometimes it's a
property.
no choice
Correct.
situation. Yeah, and also people, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Sometimes you can't get the house you want in the location you want, right? So if you're thinking of staying in Dawson, but the prices are, then you got to look elsewhere in a sense, right?
Dawson, you go Strathmore, it's older, just beside across the street only.
Okay, so are you saying it's about being clever about the map? It's like you shouldn't be hung up about like where you want to stay.
I think now a lot of people, they are very engrossed into this balance lease. I always tell them, don't worry about the balance lease, because if you are just staying a street across, the lease is shorter by 10 to 20 years. I mean, you're paying 200-300K cheaper, what? Why not? You're not so stretched on your dollars.
So I mean, I always, when it comes to government things, right, I must always ask, should the government step in at some point, or should the market just wait it out? Because then at some point prices will come down.
I think in the government's opinion, they are already stepping in. They are already stepping in by ramping up the BTO supply. I think for them, if I put myself in the shoes of the government, they want to take care of those who are at the bottom 10% or 20% to make sure for those who are able to afford their first home, which is that, for example, those who are in their rental flats, government rental flats, and they want to own their own homes and they have a stable job, the government will give assistance to this group. All right? That's one group. The other one is first-time home buyers. The government is allocating 90 to 95% of the BTO flats, depending on locations, to first-time home buyers. So the government is taking care of this group. So to answer your question, yes, in the government's opinion, they are already doing something.
They'll be like, why are you asking this question? Patrick, as you say, HDBs are dirt cheap. Is there anything else that the government can do?
It's coming down already. They don't need to do anything. It's automatically coming down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a cycle in the property
But it's
market.
just that because the news that you guys keep on reading, like you mentioned the number, right? Like $120 plus million HDB. But you guys always forgotten the big number is there is 1.1 million HDB in Singapore. So you are talking about a small number, but because this number is newsworthy. But actually there's a lot of cheaper units selling that you guys don't want to report because nobody is interested in that.
I mean, I do think it's kind of like when people see it's like, because of this notion that HDB is public housing and it's like $1 million and we're seeing more frequently that we're seeing these numbers. But yeah.
Yes. And I think that if we were to turn back the clock, roughly about 10, 15 years ago, when $1 million flats was a rarity, in 1 year, you get less than $100 million flats. Right now, what we're seeing is that in 1 year, we get 95 HDB 3-room flats. They are priced above 800,000, but less than $1 million, within that range. So it's almost like deja vu of what we saw with the $1 million flats, which means that going forward, in the next 10 years, it's only a matter of time before some 3-room flats cross that $1 million mark. But I agree with Patrick that, yes, these are, in a way, outliers, scarcities. For every 3-room flats that cross that 900K benchmark, there could also be some that is like below $400,000 or even $350,000. So it's like, in statistics, you see that bell curve. For those who remember their statistic lessons, you always have the outliers on the right side. You also have some outliers on the left side, the very cheap ones, the very expensive and the very cheap ones.
All right. So I guess the takeaway for today is there's a flat for everyone, but also we have to manage expectations and be a little bit realistic about where we want to stay and what we can afford to put down right? So, okay, on that note, thank you both for being here. And I thought that was a very interesting dissection of where we are with housing affordability. So thank you for that conversation. And that's it from The Usual Place today. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss the next episode. And if you have thoughts on what we just discussed today, do drop a comment on YouTube or talk to me on Instagram at The Usual Place Podcast. I'll see you next week on Thursday at noon.